And welcome back to the Free to Fly online conference for in honor of the Freebird Project Shop. And right now I am wearing a Freebird Project Shop item. It's the peasant dress. I'll put the link down in the comments area after the show so you can go and check out and get one of your own because it is just so comfy. Now today's guest is Derrick Kwa, and he is going to be talking about living a life of purpose, getting over your fears, and starting to live a more joyous life because you're doing more of what you love. So Derrick, first of all, thank you for joining us at the Free to Fly conference.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And you are one of the few gentlemen speakers that has stepped forward to speak for our cause and our close. So thank you for that, because I mean, when it comes to the battle against domestic violence and against inequality, having men on our side certainly helps. So we'll start off with a little bit about your background, Derrick. How did you discover, well, I mean, one of the interesting parts about your story is really that you left school at a very young age.
Yeah, so I left school at 16. Mostly just like I kind of realized that, I was just going through the motions, being in school because it's what everyone did, and I wasn't gaining that much from it, and so I left to explore what else is out there. And honestly, leaving school at 16 was one of the best decisions I've made in my life.
Now that does cause a few issues in a mama's heart because, of course, you know, consider education important. But as an entrepreneur, I can understand too how you would have felt that way in that environment. Now, one of the things that you've done since then is you've worked with Seth Gordon, who has been so inspiring to me as a marketer. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so I was a virtual intern with him when he was doing Squidoo back in 2008. And honestly, like for me, Seth Godin was, the reason I got into blogging. Right? He was the first blog I ever read, and he's been a huge inspiration for me as well. And so, that experience, first and foremost, was just kind of being like starstruck, and it was really cool just getting to interact with him. And like every couple of weeks, we had a Skype call with him where we could just ask anything we wanted about personal branding and all of that. And I think the biggest takeaway from that whole experience, right? It was him giving us tasks to do to help grow Squidoo. And right, I think the biggest takeaway was kind of the importance of community. Right? Seth's approach to growing any product, right, is you find kind of the people who already love it, and you empower them to spread the message even further, right? And you kind of find people who are already doing what you want them to be doing, and you push them even further. And that's so much easier than trying to change someone's mind completely.
Absolutely, and we can definitely attest to that here at the Freebird Project, because we are, of course, a grassroots community that is just beginning to make its name online, and we've got big dreams, and that's part of why we invited you here, is because of your experience and your passion for passion, doing what you love and making a living doing it. I mean, I know that I have done it in various capacities through the past 19 years, because it was 19 years ago that I started my first home-based business. And so, yes, I would just love to hear your theory on first finding your passion and second making money from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with regards to finding your passion, right, a lot of it is it's kind of a mix of self-discovery, self-analysis, and reflection together with trial and error, right? So I think it's really useful to kind of look into yourself and reflect and figure out, like, what's important to you, what you like doing in terms of analyzing your day and seeing what parts of them you like and want to do more of, what parts you hate, right? Looking at the people you admire the most and figuring out what is it you admire about them, why you want a life like theirs, right? And writing all these things down, I think it's really important to actually make it concrete, because a lot of times we just kind of, sit and bounce thoughts in our heads, and it doesn't make it real. It doesn't, when you put it down on paper, it makes it so much more real to yourself. And then, from there, right, from all these things, you find trends in terms of what you value, what's important to you, what you enjoy doing, and you take steps in that direction and, calibrate as you go. Right? And I think the thing that holds people back the most is that first step. Right? And, we tell ourselves that it's not possible. We tell ourselves, we're not good enough. All of this fear and self-doubt. And that first step is the most important one, and it's also the hardest one to take.
Absolutely. And fear is one of those things that almost everybody has to work through, no matter where they're starting from. Now,
and no matter where you are, it never goes away, right?
And it never does. Now, you specialize in working with 9-to-5ers who want to make that transition. What is that first step? What is that first step that gets them over the fear?
I think, well, firstly, it's, kind of nailing down what your specific fear is, right? So there are a few kind of common ones that you always find of, not having enough money, not having the right skills, not knowing the right people, not having enough time, just a general feeling of not being good enough. Those are probably the 5 most common things. And I think the key to it is really taking small steps in that direction, right? And, I like to say that confidence comes through small victories. Right? So, right, how you overcome your fears is you take a small step and you see what you can actually achieve. Right? So, for example, if you feel like you don't have the right connections, and this is how I started out actually, right? What I always encourage people to do is find someone you really admire, who you've always felt, I wish I could talk to this person, who you've always held like on a different level from yourself, and write them an email in like 5-10 minutes. Just write an email, take a deep breath, click send. Right? It takes no more than 10 minutes. Really small thing to do, but it breaks down that barrier in your mind of, I can never, reach this person. He's on a different plane than me, right? And it makes you realize that everyone is just a message away, right? And that's pretty much, that's how I got started. Right? When I was 16, I found Seth Gordon's blog, and a couple of months later, I emailed Seth with just like a 2-paragraph rant of a thought. And he replied saying, that's a great thought. And, that gave me such a huge confidence boost. And the contents of that email became my first blog post. And that's really like kind of the starting point of everything for me. And, that's one of my favorite kind of small actions to take. Because it's so simple to do, and yet just that fear of rejection always holds us back. But once you do it, you realize that you have nothing to lose from putting yourself out there.
And that is so, so true. There is nothing to lose by making a decision to change your life and doing those small, small things. And it is really a culmination of the small things that get you to those bigger victories. Everyone that you admire has gone through a portion of what you've been through. I mean, the journey doesn't begin at where they are today. So it's important to remember that. And remember that most of the people that are in the sphere are more than willing to help if you do reach out. They can't know that you need them until you reach out to them. So that is a great.
Are much more, approachable than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. And I know that I was at a conference yesterday, the Brazo County's Women in Business Conference yesterday, and that was one of the major themes of the entire event was action. to take action. Now, one of the speakers there, Trisha Mellingford, I believe was her last name. Anyways, Trisha was talking about the yes you can attitude. I mean, it's changing that thought in your mind from I can't to I can. And that is one of those little tweaks in your mindset that can change and help you to get through that little fear. Because sending an email message is something you do every day. So why not reach out to somebody that you admire? It makes so much sense. So thank you for that tip, Derrick. What else would you say is now you have a practice that is a coaching practice in a sense. Let's share the address of where people can find you online to get more of these tips and information.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually hosting a podcast, Passion Blueprint. So that's the best place to connect with me. Passion Blueprint, I interview people who have taken that step out to do what they love, be it leaving the 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur, or even making a career switch to a different industry, right? And we talk about the fears they faced, the steps they took to overcome it, how they got started, all of that, right? And the idea is to inspire and motivate our listeners to take that step for themselves and show them how it can be done.
And that is absolutely awesome. And it really echoes a lot of what I do with Triumphant Tales. Of course, Triumphant Tales is the podcast that I host and where I feature stories of survivors doing the same thing that Derrick's guests do in establishing themselves as entrepreneurs and really thriving in the world after abuse. So it's wonderful that you have a show that helps highlight even more entrepreneurs who are really living the life that they have. Because whether you're a survivor or not, everybody has fears that can hold them back if you let them. And you've already spoken about some of the most common fears that people have, that lack of money, lack of skills, and so on. And it's so important to remember that those are only you in the moment. And so much of our message here at the Freebird Project is bloom where you are planted. Because even if you don't have what you need today, you've got the seeds of it. Once you raise that awareness that you need something, it's easy to develop a plan to go out and get it. Derrick, do you have any closing thoughts before we end off for the day? Because it doesn't appear that we have any questions coming in from the audience, but we certainly will be sharing this this session of the Free to Fly online conference and fashion show out there in the blogosphere and the Twitterverse and all over the place to try and get people to understand that they are only one little step away from the beginning of their dreams. So Derrick, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think, one of the biggest, well, I guess two big things for me. The first one is, having the right support system and the right people around you is really important, right? And I think, that's something that I will encourage everyone to find, right? Find that small support group, join entrepreneur communities, whatever it is, right? And in today's world, it's never been easier for communities. And having that support is really important. And I think second, and most importantly, and this is a lesson I've learned a lot in the past couple of years, that it's okay to have that fear. It's okay to, if you're feeling down, if you're in a rut, so often we get that fear, we hit the rut, right? Or we hit a brick wall. We get even more upset at ourselves because we hit that brick wall and it spirals down. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's okay to be in a rut sometimes. Everyone hits that. Everyone has fears. It's okay to have those fears and to just acknowledge that and not let it stop you from taking the next step and not beat yourself up over being in that situation.
Thank you. That is excellent advice. So don't beat yourself up. There's enough people out there in the world already who are willing and able to tear you down in an instant. So don't do it to yourself. And that is the final message from Derrick. Thank you so much for joining us. And as he said, you can find him on passionblueprint.com. If what he said has resonated with you and you want to connect with him on a deeper level, you can definitely go and check out passionblueprint.com. And we're going to sign off for this morning session. You will want to join us later in this evening when we are with Sundara Dawn, and she's going to walk us through a session that involves the moon and oracle cards and all sorts of fun and sunshine. So do go and check out, sign up for the for that session at thefreebirdproject.org/Sundara. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will catch you next time on the Free to Fly online conference and fashion show.